Hey ladies, welcome back to my channel. On this channel we talk about life and everything that affects us on a daily basis. So if you're interested in those things, I would ask you to consider subscribing. That's that little thing in the right hand corner at the bottom there. Hit that button. And then also if you'll hit the bell, you'll be notified of upcoming videos, which I post every Tuesday and Thursday. And if you don't, it'll get lost in the YouTube abyss. So be sure and hit that bell. Okay, without further ado, today we are talking a marriage tip, and I'm going to teach you 3 different tips on how to fight well. And be sure and stay tuned for tip 3 because it's my favorite one and it's probably one that you haven't heard or tried yet. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned and let's do this. We all know that relationships have their disagreements. We argue sometimes, we fight sometimes, we don't always agree, we don't always get along.
Look at us, we're already fighting.
Well, that's what we do. We fight.
But how can you do that with someone that you love and still walk away knowing that they still love you, that they don't hold this against you, that this doesn't change the way that they feel about you? Because in the moment, sometimes it does feel like they don't like you very much and it's kind of changing how they feel about you. So this is 3 tips on how to fight well and still maintain your relationship of love. Tip number 1, don't use you, use I. Here's what I mean. Don't use you when you are talking to someone that you love about a problem that you're having. You don't do this when I ask you. You don't come over when I need you. You don't make things when I want you to. You aren't this, you aren't that, you don't do. All of those kinds of things are really accusatory, and it automatically puts the other person on the defensive, and they're already starting to get heated and angry and frustrated and coming up with all the ways that they need to defend themselves instead of really listening to what you're actually saying. It's just you're accusing them, and so they're automatically on the defensive. So instead, use the word I. I feel this way when this happens. Sometimes I get my feelings hurt when this happens. Sometimes I feel this way when that happens. Sometimes I don't feel appreciated because things don't get noticed. Things like that. When you talk about how you're feeling and you use the word I or my instead of you, then it automatically kind of disarms the other person. They're more willing to hear you out and kind of get to the bottom of the way that you're feeling, and less inclined to just automatically go to DEFCON 5 and, 0 to 60 in 5 seconds flat.
Take it to DEFCON 2.
Tip number 2, avoid never and always. So you don't want to use the words never and always. You never do this, you never show up, you're always sarcastic, you always do this, you always do that. Those kinds of things, first of all, aren't true. People don't always react a certain way or never listen. You never listen to me. When you say things like that, that's not really true. And then it goes to an extreme where the person automatically is tuning you out and going, oh, please.
What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Because you know and they know that the never and the always isn't actually true, and it just makes the situation worse. So instead, use things like, it seems like you don't respond often to this when I say that, or it seems like you don't necessarily notice when I've done something, or it seems like you don't care about this much as I do. Can we talk about that? Or sometimes when I'm talking, it kind of appears like you're not listening to me, like you're zoning out or you're on your phone. Would you mind setting your phone down so we could actually talk, so I can kind of feel like you're listening to me? Things like that. Those things are disarming, and they're not that you always, you never accusatory again. Tip number 3, stop in the middle of your fight and tell them you love them.
I'm sorry, what?
Did you just say stop in the middle of your fight and tell them you love them? Yeah, I did. So my husband has done this a couple of times, the last couple of times that we've had kind of a major argument. Thankfully, we don't really argue that much. We hardly ever fight, which of course, now that I've said that, knock on some wood here, it's gonna happen. But the last couple of times, we've kind of gotten a little bit heated, and then he has stopped in the middle of our fight, come over to me, held my shoulders and said, okay, I know we're arguing right now, but I just want you to know that I love you and that this argument does not change the way I feel about you. It's a rough moment, but deep down, I want you to know that I love you. Now, the first time he did this, let's be real, I did not want to have him stop and tell me that, and I kind of went all stiff and rigor mortis like, and I wasn't uber responsive to him doing that. But it did diffuse the situation a little bit. It did calm me down a little bit. It did give me the assurance that he still loved me and that this didn't need to get this heated. And things kind of simmered down a little bit. The second time he did it, I stopped, hugged him back, and was like, you're right. Let's keep this in perspective. We do really love each other, and so let's not treat each other ugly. And it has changed the dynamic of when we disagree. And we can actually disagree still knowing that that love is intact and there and unaltered. And it just changes the way that I feel about him. Even when I am upset, even when he's upset, it changes things. So next time this happens, when you are arguing with your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever, and you are in the middle of it, try it out and just see what happens. The first time you might get a little bit of the, rigor mortis from the other person, but inside, they will really look at things different. It will change the dynamic of that argument. Hope this has inspired you to love people well, to treat each other with respect, and to learn how to argue well. And until next time, stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next video. See you, ladies.